All right, it's time to start, but before getting started, first of all, as a housekeeping, simultaneous interpretation will be provided for this seminar, so please set the channel by clicking the button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. 日本語でもご説明いたします。本セミナーは同時通訳を用意しています。
This session arranges interpreter. Please choose your language that you wish to listen from the globe icon at the bottom of the Zoom screen. I'd like to start the session now. My name is Watanabe from JETRO Sydney. Two Japanese companies, I'd like you to collaborate with the universities and the research institutes. I want to share with you the examples and how they are making progresses in such initiatives. JETRO promotes the collaboration between Japanese companies and Australian universities. We established the JBridge, Japan Innovation, for the open innovation. We provide matching services, send out information, and the sourcing program are the services or support that we offer. We have 1,500 companies and 2,200 members registered, and promising 800 overseas companies participate in this initiative, but not just between the companies, but company and research institute and university are also collaborating with each other in Australia as well. Japanese companies, universities in Australia, and the research institutes are really progressing in their initiative to work on the research and collaboration. There is a good opportunity. I hope that this session will give you the opportunity to think about further collaboration and to the Australian universities as well. I hope this would be a good opportunity for you to pay attention to Japanese companies and your collaboration with them. I have two housekeeping points to share with you. First, if you have any questions during the webinar, please put your question in the Q&A box. As long as time permits, I'd like to take your question. If you wish to arrange the interview, please write it down in the survey or questionnaire. Rashid-san for the facilitator, please begin. Thank you. From IGPI.
Thank you so much, Watanabe-san, and a very good afternoon to all our audiences who are dialing in from both Australia and Japan. My name is Rachit Khosla. I head IGPI in Australia. I have been given a tough job of explaining Australia's R&D prowess and setting the context in 5 to 7 minutes. There is so much to talk about, and I will try my best to give you some good flavor in this capsule time period. Next slide, please. Next. Briefly introducing my company, IGPI. We are a Japan-rooted premium advisory and investment firm. We operate on a hybrid model. We have a number of offices across the globe, including some JV offices with Japan Bank of International Corporation. And we are honored to have several prominent Japanese companies as our shareholders, as you can see on the bottom right of the screen. Next slide, please. A bit of history about Australia and Japan when it comes to innovation collaboration. Australia and Japan's innovation collaboration is not new. In fact, it goes back a fair bit in time. Do you know that Australia and Japan actually signed the Australia-Japan Science and Technology Treaty more than 4 decades ago? Australia is Japan's 7th largest partner in scientific co-publications. So where does this R&D that comes out of universities and research institutes, that is the topic introduced by Watanabe-san today, fit in the innovation landscape, and how does it fit with JBridge? Please allow me to explain on the next slide. As Japanese companies are exposed to many global innovation ecosystems, they will appreciate that there are 2 common stakeholder buckets in any global ecosystem, and Australia is no different. The innovators on the left and the enablers. Innovators are large Japanese companies themselves. Then there are startups and spin-offs. Spin-offs are companies that typically come out of university and research institutes. And then there are university and research institutes themselves. JBridge has a couple of thousand members already that contribute to the innovators. And then there are enablers, government bodies like JETRO, investors and venture capitalists, and incubators and accelerators. Now, if you look with this backdrop, if you look at the Venn diagram on the right, JBridge so far has been focusing on the Japanese corporations and collaboration with startups and spin-offs. But there are more ways to collaborate with universities and corporations. For example, contract research, licensing, centers of excellence, etc. This webinar today is a step in that direction. Over the next couple of slides, I will try to focus more on universities because my next speaker will be talking actually about the research institutes. Actually, the good thing is that the Japanese corporations have been taking note of Australia's research prowess already. You can see a number of notable examples on the screen, and there are several more. For example, and these are across different sectors, as you notice. For example, Nippon Stream and University of Queensland are collaborating in the carbon neutral space. NEC and University of Wollongong are collaborating in the smart city space. And Fujitsu and Macquarie in artificial intelligence, and NTT Data and UTS in the data security realm. It is our pleasure and honor that two of the companies listed here, Fujitsu and UTS, the university, are actually our guest speaker for today. When we interact with Japanese companies, one of the key issues that they mention is that the headquarters asks that why Australia? So by means of my next slide, please allow me to give you some context about the Australian university landscape. So I would like to touch upon 3 data points which are in pink, one by one. Australia has 42 universities. Compared to Japan, Japan has 780. Yes, 780. So now Japan's population is 5 times of Australia, but the universities are actually 18 times more. But now with that backdrop, if we look at the data on the lower left part, if you look at the higher education R&D spending as a percentage of GDP, which is called HERD, which is a global term, then Australia in percentage terms is much higher than Japan. Of course, because Japan's economy is bigger, in absolute numbers, Japan will be higher. But linking it to point number 1, then Japan has 18 times more universities as well. So what Australia's 42 universities are doing is quite impressive by that standard. Now, if you look at the right side of the slide, we have global recognition. There are a number of ranking systems globally that are there for universities. QS University Rankings is one of the popular ones. And we personally like them a lot because they take into account factors which are of relevance like academic reputation, citations per faculty, international research network, sustainability, etc. So if you look at the QS ranking globally, if you look at the maroon bars against all of some prominent countries, Australia has 6 out of, within the top 50, Australia has 6 universities, while Japan has only 2. If you look at other prominent countries like USA and UK, USA's population is 13 times of Australia and UK's is 3 times, but they only have 16 and 8 universities respectively. So now if you look at the 3 pink data points that I started with, you will recognize that Australian universities are actually doing a fantastic job in research, and they should be on your radar as a Japanese corporation. And now I would also like to highlight some interesting features should you consider Australia for your R&D collaboration opportunities. Moving on to the next slide for the same. So 2 things to keep in mind when you look at the Australia's R&D landscape is CRCs and R&D tax incentives. What are CRCs? CRCs are cooperative research programs. They are run by the Australian government, not since today, but since 30 odd years already, where they do industry-led collaborations and provide financial support based on eligibility. These industry bodies are trying to solve important issues which may be relevant to Australia or beyond. For example, a couple of the recent CRCs which got funding support from the Australian government include zero net emissions from agriculture, 87 million Australian dollars, and solving plastic waste, 40 million Australian dollars. Now, if you look at the photo on the lower left, Japanese companies are also participating in CRCs. For example, the Future Energy Export or FENEX CRC, you can see the logos of some Japanese companies beneath the photograph. The other one is the R&D tax incentives. Now, R&D tax incentives is a big ocean, so I'll not go into too much detail, but the idea is that if you carry out R&D initiatives in Australia, subject to your eligibility, you can offset eligible R&D cost, and that can be potentially very attractive. This is by no means tax advice, but I would suggest that you look at the CRCs and R&D tax incentives when you build your business case about doing research with Australian universities. In summary of this slide, both these features can help you with finding like-minded partners and also potential financial support and incentives. Moving on to my last slide, I would like to wrap up by sharing IGPI's observations of working in Australia and why should Japanese companies such as yourself should consider Australian universities and research institutes. I would like to call it the 4 C's. So basically, in our experience, there are 4 C's that you should look at when you look at Australia. The first one is comfort. Comfort is very important between 2 countries if you want to do bilateral research. Japanese companies have been entering Australia since decades, so comfort is there. They're geopolitically aligned, so which is all good. The second thing to keep in mind is complementarity. This can cut across various sectors. For example, the energy space. Japan has energy security concerns, while Australia has abundant renewable energy. So there are a lot of natural collaboration opportunities that come in clean energy and also creating new industries, which are already happening as we speak. This can be applicable to other industries like agri-tech. We have seen cases where companies are leveraging on the complementarity of the seasons, winter and summer, to have uniform cash flows across both the countries. The third one is core strengths, acting on core strengths. It is no secret that Japan has given many big companies to the world, so they are very good at globalizing and scaling up. And Australia is a strong innovation hub as well as a very good test bed. So collectively, they can solve global issues here from Australia. And last but not the least, thinking of common solutions for different problems. For example, Japan has a declining population and Australia has expensive manpower, one of the most expensive in the world actually. So these may sound different problems, but using efficiency of processes and technology, same solution can be localized to solve both these problems. So in a nutshell, I would emphasize that you should look at these 4 C's and consider Australia very sincerely for your research initiatives. Now, this brings me to the end of my presentation. I really hope that you found it beneficial to get a quick flavor in this capsule time. And now it is time for me to introduce our next speaker, who will talk about research institutes. So please allow me to have on the screen Rajiv Cabral from CSIRO. CSIRO is the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization. It's Australia's national science agency. Rajiv is the executive manager for commercialization at CSIRO based in Melbourne. He is one of Australia's leading technology lawyers and focuses from bringing the commercialization from lab to products and services. Rajiv, we look forward to your presentation and learning more about CSIRO.
Thank you, Rajat. It's an honor to be here today and to have the opportunity to introduce CSIRO to you all.
So Rajiv, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Is that working?
Hello,
Rajiv,
I'm
testing.
unable to hear you, sorry.
Testing. Try again. Is it working?
I can hear you.
Rajat, can you hear me? Someone else can hear me.
Rajiv, are you there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can anyone else hear me?
I think, Rajiv, can you just toggle to the English channel? Because I think there are 2 channels on your taskbar. Maybe you're speaking in the Japanese channel. That's why the English one is coming to you.
Let's try that again. How's that?
I can hear you. Let me...
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it works now. Perfect. Go on.
Okay. All right, let's try again. Thank you, Rajat. It's an honor to be here today and have the opportunity to introduce CSIRO to you all. In Australia, we often start presentations and meetings with an acknowledgement to show our awareness and respect for Australia's First Nations. I'm presenting from Melbourne, which is the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people, and I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. If we could go to the next slide, please. One more. CSIRO, as Ratchet said, is Australia's national science agency. We are an agency that is established by and is primarily funded by the Australian government. The origins of CSIRO trace back to 1916, and since then, for over 100 years, we've been improving the lives of people around the world with our science. Next slide, please. To give you a point of comparison with an organization that may be familiar to you, CSIRO is somewhat similar to AIST, Japan's largest public research organization. Both are independent organizations under a government department. AIST's people number might be slightly larger when you include people from industry and universities. CSIRO has a greater geographic footprint, but both connect with universities and industry, both are active in a number of research domains, both have similar annual budgets, and both look to benefit the world through science and innovation. Next slide, please. CSIRO's purpose is to solve the greatest challenges through innovative science and technology. And our focus is on 6 key challenges. I'll run through them all. The first, ensuring food security and quality and growing the triple bottom line value of Australia's agri-food and fibre industries, for example, by making agricultural production more profitable and ensuring sustainable and trusted value chains. Second, transitioning to sustainable energy and resources and lowering emissions to net zero while sustaining prosperity. So this includes enabling electricity transition and industry and transport decarbonisation and ensuring sustainable prosperity from resources and value-added critical minerals. Third, enhancing the health and well-being of people, supporting healthier lives, preventing and being prepared for infectious diseases and digitally transforming healthcare. Fourth, enhancing the resilience and value of our natural and built environments, particularly in light of climate risks. Fifth, creating future sustainable jobs and industries. And sixth, safeguarding and securing Australia and our region from threats, including from biosecurity risks, looking at sovereign resilience, and contributing to the stability and prosperity of our region. So these challenges bring together and address Australian and international priorities, and there is a fair amount of overlap between our challenges and the priority areas under Japan's STI and Moonshot programs. Next slide, please. CSIRO is an applied research organization. So we are typically focused on research that can be applied to the real world problems and that can be adopted commercially, and we are keen to collaborate. Over the years, we have become Australia's most trusted research institution and Australia's most connected innovator by working with universities, governments, businesses of all sizes across all major industries, and with the community. We are a big international collaborator. In 2023, we collaborated with 1,440 customers across 87 countries. CSIRO has been collaborating with Japanese universities, research organizations, and private industries since the mid-1980s. Next slide, please. We are quite flexible in how we collaborate and have a number of engagement types that add value. For example, our futures team is a strategic advisory arm that has genuine independence and brings together our deep expertise, deep science and technologies alongside economic modeling. This allows us to forecast global megatrends and provide government, industry, and the broader community with a long-term view of the changes over generations that will have substantial impact. We also use this capability to work with companies to create roadmaps that identify opportunities for them to accelerate and unlock value around their business. We have many ways to help industry, government, and others find solutions to their problems. Over the years, we have had many successful collaborations with Japanese companies in a very wide range of areas, such as coal to hydrogen, the hydrogen value chain, carbon capture, critical minerals, next generation batteries, space and Earth observation, artificial intelligence, modeling, and robotics. We also have the capacity to enable staff exchanges, and we actively look for partners to commercialize and invest in our intellectual property. Across the innovation process, from strategy to R&D to commercialization, we have ways to partner, to collaborate, and to engage. Next slide, please. As an example, CSIRO has had a 30-year strategic relationship with Boeing to provide our expertise to projects that impact aviation and space at global scale. We have teams on site with Boeing in Australia and in the US. Boeing has successfully deployed many CSIRO innovations, and we're helping them look to the future with roadmaps for how they meet future challenges in the aviation industry. Next slide, please. I'd like to touch on our missions program as one of the unique ways in which CSIRO partners with others to leverage our unique place in Australia's innovation ecosystem and to drive a whole of system approach. So building on missions experience in places like Japan, the European Union, and elsewhere, CSIRO has created a shift towards mission-oriented innovation to align, coordinate, and integrate the deep capability across CSIRO and also the deep capability and interests of others around a shared goal. Our missions are intended to be broad, collaborative research programs that help address the world's great challenges. But unlike other government-led mission programs around the world, our missions are co-led between government, research, and industry. Instead of just looking to government for support, we are also focused on the market and building relationships with companies who will invest into missions and our mission innovations because they can see how the mission aligns with their business and that collaboration has value and will provide them with a clear return on their investment. Next slide, please. To provide an example, CSIRO's hydrogen mission has played a key role in developing Australia's hydrogen industry. Australia is very well placed with an abundance of resources for producing large volumes of hydrogen. This creates opportunities not only for Australia to decarbonise its own economy, but also to support global decarbonisation efforts by supplying hydrogen and its derivatives to other countries. Next slide, please. As the hydrogen market develops, we see numerous opportunities in advanced manufacturing and the services sectors. I've included on this slide a small snapshot of some of our hydrogen activities where Japanese organizations have already partnered around industrial processes and exports from Australia. Next slide, please. Our missions program provides a number of opportunities to engage, from knowledge sharing to partnerships around strategy and international linkages to demonstration projects and the development and deployment of the science and technology that is needed to allow these new industries to flourish. There are also investment opportunities in new companies that are established to commercialize technology that advance and accelerate the mission itself. Next slide, please. We also look for partners to deploy our strong portfolio of innovation, but who don't necessarily wish to collaborate on the R&D itself. As an example, CSIRO has developed localization and mapping technologies that enable robots to create super accurate maps of their environment and to understand where they are within that environment. Next slide, please. We know the technology is state-of-the-art through our participation in a challenge run by DARPA in the US, where we competed with the best robotics teams from around the world. As part of the challenge, it was necessary for DARPA to create a survey-grade map of the testing environment. This took the humans 1 week. Our team of robots was, in 1 hour, able to autonomously explore, cooperate, and create a shared map that was 0% different to the human survey-grade map. Next slide, please. We are now looking for partners to access and use this technology. And you can imagine the number of applications this has into advanced robotics, industrial inspection, autonomous field and heavy equipment, defense applications, and disaster mitigation and management. We are also investing in the next generation of this technology, and there are opportunities to partner and collaborate on that next stage of the journey. Next slide, please. I'm very conscious that this has been a very quick overview of what is a very large research agency, and I and the broader team at CSIRO would be very happy to take any questions or explore opportunities to collaborate and partner. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you to JETRO and IGPI for the invitation to speak, and thank you for your interest in Australian research and for your time.
Thank you,
Rajiv.
Thank you, Rajiv, for your wonderful presentation. And yeah, CSIRO is indeed a very impressive organization. For the audience, if you have any questions, we will have a dedicated Q&A session where you can type into the Q&A box. But in case if you already have questions, please keep typing them and we'll address them towards the end of the session. Thanks, Rajiv, for your presentation. And now we will be going to the experience sharing sessions. So we have 2 experience sharing sessions that we have put together for this event, one from the Japanese corporate side and other from the Australian university side. Both the speakers that have been handpicked, they have been actively involved in the Australia-Japan partnership. So first, starting from the Japanese side, we have 2 representatives from Fujitsu. We have Ohira-san and Takeuchi-san. Ohira-san is the manager of Industry Academia Collaboration Promotion Office. He's based in Japan. He's a former national government employee of the National Personnel Authority, and he leads the Industry Academia collaboration domestically as well as internationally through the Fujitsu Small Research Lab. And Takeuchi-san, he's a senior research manager at the Fujitsu AI Research Laboratory and an applied AI researcher with 15 years experience, 10 papers, and 20 plus patents applied. So we have a lot of experience on this call. So we look forward to hearing from you, especially with regards to your partnership inquiry. Over to you.
はい、ありがとうございます。ここからはちょっと私どもとですね、日本語でお話ししたいと思いますが、
Thank you very much. I'd like to speak in Japanese, but I will take your question in English. I'm from Fujitsu. I am in charge of the collaboration between industry and academia. My name is Ohira. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity, and I'm really honored to be able to speak in front of you. Today, I want to talk about the industry-academia collaboration between ourselves and Macquarie University. Going forward, as you look for the business opportunities with the university, I hope this information is going to be useful for you. In the first session, let me talk about the overall picture of our initiative for the industry-academia promotion in our technology area. And later, Takeuchi-san will talk about collaboration between Fujitsu and Macquarie from AI Research Institute. First of all, this is the purpose and technology of our company. In Fujitsu, we want to gain confidence from the society through innovation, and we want to make the world more sustainable. In order to materialize this, we want to accelerate the businesses. We have Fujitsu Uvance, which is our business model, as a solution to take on challenges of the social issues. In Fujitsu, we have AI and the 5 key technologies are defined, and for which we are concentrating our R&D resources. Here, this is a global research and development structure of our company. In Fujitsu, in Japan and abroad, we have the research institute, and we have very famous, prominent universities. And through the joint research with them at home and abroad, we are working on the 5 key technologies. These are representative university in the map, but the other university not shown here are also collaborating with us. And Macquarie University is one of the universities that we are collaborating. Let me briefly explain the background. In Australia, Fujitsu Australia is located, which is our subsidiary company. In 2018, we have Shironi office in Fujitsu, Australia. We held a workshop there from Macquarie University. When we had the Macquarie, we invited the highly specialized people in the area of IE. So we started the project with that for the diagnosis by the physicians. And we wanted to further accelerate these joint researches for generative AI. And in 2023, December, Fujitsu Macquarie AI Research Lab was launched. As part of the Fujitsu Small Research Lab initiative, Fujitsu Small Research Lab related universities are shown on this slide. As for the joint research, together with Macquarie University, Takeuchi-san is going to talk about it later. Now, let me talk about Fujitsu Small Research Lab, which is the foundation of the collaboration with the university. Briefly speaking, within the compound of the university, we rent the dedicated space for us. So that space is serving as a lab. We dispatch our researchers to the university. They are stationed there so that we can realize a close collaboration with the university. The background is that in the conventional collaboration between industry of academia, there are always individual exchanges between individual researchers or individual researchers or individual professors. So it was like a point connection. But because the social issues are becoming increasingly complex, we want to broaden the activity for researchers. And therefore, we conceptualized the Fujitsu Small Research Lab. We can cover broad multidisciplinary faculty, and instead of point-on-point, we wanted to connect the services so that we can establish a long-term relationship. With this initiative and collaboration, we can integrate the various field and different sectors to realize the resolution of the social challenges and improve the efficiency of R&D and explore the new theme by establishing a long-term relationship in the future, not just limited to the existing researches. We wanted to broaden and expand the research area of field for the future. As of now, we have 13 locations in Japan and 4 locations overseas for this small research lab. So 13 and 4 respectively in Japan and overseas try to accelerate the collaboration. We want to expand this so that it can become the global academia and collaboration network. That's all from myself. Takeuchi-san is going to talk about the details of the research. Thank you. This is Takeuchi. Let me talk about it from the perspective of research. In Fujitsu Research Institute, together with Macquarie University in particular, we use a camera image and try to evolve the human sensing technology. Camera device and AI are developing now. In recent years, the action or behavior of people are sensed to provide solution services. Specifically speaking, in retail, manufacturing, in many sectors of industry, these human sensing technologies can be leveraged. So together with Macquarie, the university, we want to broaden the area of work. In Fujitsu Research Institute, we have what we call actualizer, which is an engine for the human sensing. It's AI. It has lots of features. For example, using camera image, we can detect the basic action of people like run, stand up, and walk. We can recognize or detect it. And also, people walking and using the smartphone, which is quite a complicated action by the behavior, also can be detected by AI. So we are working on this for the further development. Next page. Now, together with Fujitsu Research Institute and Macquarie, we have established Fujitsu Macquarie AI Research Lab. Now we have human sensing technology, and we have the experience and knowledge of the social implementation.
On top of that, we also work with the professors of Macquarie University to work on personalization, which is a more advanced technology because they have abundant knowledge around that. So human sensing and personalization are different disciplinaries, different areas, different research fields. By combining the two, we are trying to go beyond our area, human sensing, and to further advance the human analysis and to push it forward to a more complex area. Going to the next page. And this is the last page of my presentation. So to conclude my presentation, we have Fujitsu Small Research Lab. Under the labs, we have 13 labs in Japan, and we also have labs overseas, 4 labs overseas. And these labs are to take on the challenge to solve social issues. And we also have collaboration with Macquarie University as the Fujitsu Macquarie AI Research Lab to work on human sensing and personalization. These are the 2 areas that we are working on together to address the social issues together. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Ohira-san and Takeuchi-san, for your nice presentation. It's really good to see the partnership and the work you are doing with Macquarie in Australia. Although I have a couple of questions in mind, but in interest of time, I'll just ask one. And the question is, are you looking for any open innovation partners in Australia? And what kind of partners and why? It would be nice if you can share a bit for the audience.
OK, Takeuchi-san, go ahead. OK.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Raj, for your question. So, we are looking for a partner that they want to solve specific issue with AI technology to be developed in the Macquarie University collaboration. So we have been developing advanced AI technologies in terms of human sensing, generative AI, and personalization. So we'd like to. We are happy to discuss the company to collaboration using the our technologies. And also I'd like to add that in order to proceed the AI technology research, the data set is important. So how can I say? So I'd like to discuss the company with a specific issue with to solve, and also with a data set like video, image, and something like that.
Got it. So basically, data set and the issue, and then you can basically help them solve that problem. Perfect.
Yeah,
so thanks
exactly.
for sharing that, Takeuchi-san. So if anyone on the Australian side in the audience is interested in speaking with Fujitsu, you can request a meeting via the end of webinar survey page, and we'll be glad to connect you with them directly. Perfect. So thanks for your presentation, Fujitsu team. And now moving on to our next speaker. Now we are moving on to the Australian side of experience sharing. So we would love to welcome UTS. UTS is represented by Professor Glenn Whitewick, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Enterprise at University of Technology, Sydney. He has been responsible for the university's entrepreneurship, enterprise learning, and industry engagement, and comes with a rich corporate experience that includes 27 years at IBM. Welcome, Glenn, and yeah, we look forward to hearing your experience. Over to you.
Hi, Rashid, and thank you very much for your time. And similar to the other speakers, very much appreciate the opportunity to present and share some of our insights into working through our university with Japan. If we can please move to the next slide. Sorry, in the next slide, there we go. That one. Perfect. So just very briefly, just to give a sense, and I think, Rashid, you did a very nice job of articulating the sort of differences between the university systems in Australia and the university systems in Japan. I didn't realize there were 780 universities in Japan. That's Australia, as you point out, has a very different system. We tend to have a smaller number of very large universities. And you can see here just some facts and figures about UTS. We currently have about 44,000 students enrolled, and about a third of our students, or a quarter to a third of our students, are international students that are generally drawn from across the Asia-Pacific region. You can see the breakdown there in terms of academic and professional staff. UTS, we are a technology university. So UTS stands for University of Technology, Sydney. We're right in the heart of the Sydney CBD, so we consider ourselves to be a city-based university, and we are focused on very focused on technology. Faculties of engineering and IT is the largest faculty in the university. Big faculty of science, business, design, architecture, and building. Health is another large area, and we also have faculty of law and arts and social sciences. And the faculties are very the diversity of faculty is very important for the university. So even though we're very strongly technically focused and technology focused, by having health, arts and social sciences, law, business, and so on, that enables us to explore technology areas, but do it in a context of how those technologies impact and are realized in society. We are well ranked, and again, Rashid, you did a lovely job of talking about the strength and excellence of the Australian university system, and UTS, even though we're only about 30 years old, have managed to do very well in a number of the global university rankings. One of the other characteristics that is sort of strong differentiator in terms of the way we operate is UTS has had a long history of strong industry engagement. That goes back to when it was an institute of technology, very industry focused, and you can see here that 60% of the research that we do at UTS is undertaken and with strong collaboration with industry. So I'll move on to the next slide, please. So here, in terms of our orientation to industry, I've tried to sort of articulate kind of the key value proposition for the university. To start with, we have invested in significant physical infrastructure. So when we establish labs and when we look at acquiring particular infrastructure to support our research and teaching, we think about that infrastructure not only for the research and teaching, but how we can expose that and make that available for our collaborations with industry partners. So I've highlighted here a number of our facilities. Tech Lab is a very large facility with a whole range of different capabilities, everything from wireless chambers through to a shaking table that we've just used recently to qualify a new satellite, which is built at UTS and due to be launched in a week's time. We have a whole bunch of prototyping equipment. We have a very advanced data arena, which we use to explore data at scale. We have a biologics innovation facility. So they're just 4 examples of some of the physical infrastructure that we've deployed. In terms of the areas that we focus on, I've just listed here what I consider the sort of top areas where we would be internationally recognized for our research. So certainly a very large focus on AI, a big focus on quantum computing, particularly quantum software and theory, data science, big focus on telecommunications, robotics. We've had an Institute for Sustainable Futures driving engagement and development of policy in the area of sustainability and energy. A lot of work recently in the green economy, and then most recently a significant increase in our work in space and defence. So they're just some of the areas. But as I indicated earlier, we're able to intersect those areas with business, innovation, law, health, and other faculties, so that we're looking at the applications often of these technologies in various domains. We also, in working with industry, recognise the need to be flexible. We'll develop new technology at the university, but when it comes to deploying that technology, we're very keen to be flexible, for example, in how we manage intellectual property. For us, what's really important is to see the research work that we do have an impact and be translated into commercial outcomes. So rather than being focused just on a very rigid way of dealing with intellectual property, for example, we look to be very, very flexible. We develop, often we do sit down with an organization and understand what the problem space is, and very quickly develop a proof of concept as a particular path to get to market. And we also do an enormous amount of our research in industry is conducted as contracted research. In terms of other areas of capability to bring to bear with industry, what's been particularly important is to leverage the scale of the university in terms of the student base to work with industry. One of the most common conversations I have with industry partners is not only the problems that they're looking to solve, but how do they get access to talent? And everybody's looking for people that they can bring into their organization. And so we use the big base of students we have as a conduit, often for the translation of that expertise from our academics into people on the ground working with companies. We also have a very vibrant startup cohort at UTS. In addition to academic startups coming out of our academic area, we have the largest cohort of startups led by students. And while I won't talk about that in detail here, the startup ecosystem in Australia is another area of importance that we can bring to bear through our universities. And finally, we're very focused and have been for forever, and particularly, this is a common characteristic of Australian universities, to be very internationally focused and internationally engaged. If we can move to the next slide, please. So I've just listed here a range of the industry partnerships that we have, companies that we've worked with over the last 5 or 10 years. Some of those on the list on the right is Australian companies and companies overseas. I've also listed, of course, on the left a number of companies which you'll recognise that we've worked with in Japan, and I'll go into a little bit more detail around our work with NTT. But just to pick up one example, and you can see the picture here is a robot that we developed at our Centre for Autonomous Systems in partnership with TEPCO. So we've done some work with the building robots to do infrastructure maintenance of the Sydney Harbour Bridge, a very famous icon in Sydney. And as a consequence of that work, we began a conversation with TEPCO about building a robot that could climb transmission towers and conduct maintenance and do that in an autonomous fashion. So they're the sorts of problems that that we typically love to get engaged in. If we can move to the next chart, please. Another area of focus for us is bringing together, and Arish mentioned this as well. We're very focused on being part of the Australia-Japan innovation ecosystem. We're a member of the AJBCC. I've been to Japan 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years. And we often host large groups of colleagues and visitors from both companies and universities and government officials at UTS from Japan. This particular summit we hosted in partnership with Austrade was last year, focused on decarbonisation. And you can see here we had 175 representatives from 90 Japanese companies attending, and we really were able to explore and in great detail the decarbonisation energy challenges that both countries faced, and looked for opportunities, as Rashid mentioned, the ability to leverage Australia's breadth of capability in renewables with the need that both our countries have in transitioning from carbon energy system to a decarbonised one. So that was a wonderful success, this particular conference that we co-hosted. But move to the next chart, please. I'll just finally talk a little bit about a wonderful partnership with that emerged with NTT, and I think the next chart goes into a little bit more detail. So back in 2021, NTT here in Australia has been a company that's had a presence in Australia for many, many years. They signed a memorandum of understanding with the New South Wales government, and then we partnered with them, working with NTT Data, with Docomo and NTT Research on a range of different projects. I think if we move to the next slide, it'll go into those projects in a little bit more detail. So the 2 major projects here that I talk about are the attribute-based encryption. So NTT has developed a very leading-edge technology for providing fine-grained access control for data in IT systems, that presents all sorts of significant benefits compared to the way we currently manage and secure data. This is particularly critical given the rise in cyber attacks, etc. We've worked with NTT Data to prove that technology in a couple of environments within the university, and then we are partnering with them to find applications for that technology with their clients here in Australia. So we've got expertise in data algorithms, encryption, and so on. We've been able to work with the NTT researchers to prove the technology and how it can apply. And now we're working with NTT and their customers, if you like, here in Australia to deploy that technology. So that's a really good example of a recent collaboration. Similarly, we've been building technology together, IoT-oriented technology for use in agriculture, bringing together sensor data together and being able to visualize that. And again, this leverages the strengths we have in data science and applications in agriculture, and we're leveraging NTT's leading edge technology as well. So I'll stop at that point. That's hopefully a quick overview of the university, a sort of sense of how we like to engage with industry, our commitment to engaging with Japan, and a small example of us working with our wonderful colleagues at NTT.
Perfect. Thanks, Glenn, for your insightful presentation and also your kind words and references to mine, and I appreciate it. I think UTS is doing a really fantastic job with the industry engagement in general. I think your Japan collaboration list is quite lengthy and indeed impressive. Honestly, I do have a couple of questions in mind when you were speaking, but I think in interest of time, I might have to take them offline. Let's see how time goes, but thanks so much for your presentation. And I also see a couple of people writing for you in the Q&A box, so if you can respond to their queries, that will be nice while I move on to the next speaker. So now, next we have a practitioner's lesson from Austrade. I think Austrade doesn't require any introduction, but it's the Australian Trade and Investment Commission and helps grow Australia's prosperity by delivering quality trade and investment services. We have George Manitakis, who is a senior business development manager. He's based in Japan. George will be talking about common mistakes and issues and how you should approach the Australia market and the whole R&D collaboration piece. George, we are looking forward to hearing from you. Over to you.
Thank you, Rach. ただいまご紹介に預かりました在日オーストラリア大使館商務部のジョージです。
Thank you very much. My name is George from the Austrade at the Australian Embassy in Tokyo. I look after embassies to promotion of Australia-Japan partnership in innovation. I have over 10 years experience in supporting joint research and development between Japanese companies and Australian universities, from conceptualization of R&D projects through to their realization. I have assisted many Japanese companies, and I acted as your contact point. Today, I'd like to share with you some key points on working with Australian universities. The purpose of this presentation is to provide Japanese companies with an overview of how they can work more effectively with Australian universities. I will use actual requests we have received in the past as example.
Next slide, please.
For example, we received this request on screen for information. Australia universities are very proactive in collaborative research with Japanese companies. However, asking a question in this way may result in receiving information that misses the mark or just being sent links to related websites. Japanese company will take too much time to examine the information in such a case. So we are asking Japanese company to change the type of the request like this. In order to, by clarifying or narrowing down the information you're looking for, it's easier for the university to pinpoint the information that is most relevant to you. This is how we can assist your company. With our company's many years of experience, we will work with you to prioritize that information in order to clarify your requests. This request, moving on to the second example, this is a request for the site visit. As in the previous case, if you were to ask university for the site visit, they would be able to introduce you to their laboratories and professors. However, if you're going to all the way to Australia, we want to make sure that your visit is optimized. We have a very strong network across Australia. With all the universities, we can provide you with information at first-hand accounts of the local situation that you may not find on the internet. Which universities have Japanese professors? Which universities collaborate with Japanese companies? For example, we will work together with you to plan the most suitable visit to each university based on each characteristics of the universities that best suits your needs. There are many other ways to effectively collaborate with Australian universities, not just the ones that I have just mentioned. If you are interested, please contact us at Austrade or Embassy of Australia. I don't receive the fee from you because we are a government agency. We are happy to provide advice to you and also promote your initiative. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, George, for your short and sweet presentation and taking real examples. I am sure the audience will find it very helpful. With this, now we are moving on to the Q&A section. We still have a couple of minutes left. So can I request all the speakers to have a look at the Q&A box and see if there is anything that they can answer. They can either go live, which means that they can speak in the mic, or they can type out their answers for anything that they find relevant. And for the audience, yeah, I think already the questions started coming from the first session itself. So if there are any more questions, please keep them typing. I think we should have about 3 minutes for the questions. Maybe George, maybe you can help get the ball rolling. There's one question maybe which you can answer. Does Australia have a database where we can search research capabilities based on our interest areas. Going to multiple universities can be time consuming. Do you want to take that one, George?
I believe CSIRO Data 61 used to have an AI search database. I'm just not sure if it's still in existence or not. So maybe Rajiv, you could talk to that.
There was a program. There was also a program that we had called Innovation Connections, but I think those are both closed now in previous years. So I don't think they're live anymore. Good question as to whether there's an excellent database that people can tap.
So maybe I could just add that again, that's maybe a function that Australia, the Australian Embassy, could provide, and would be happy to take those kind of inquiries.
If I could just add, I really do see the need for such a database, but it's been one of those things we've talked about many times, and it's been tried, but it's actually really hard to get it implemented and to get keep it up to date. So I realize, we absolutely recognize the challenge for companies to find the right places to come to, but that's why working with Austrade, as George said, is a good pathway, because we build the relationship with Austrade and they understand the different areas and different universities, what sort of strengths they have.
Thanks for answering that. I think, Glenn, you made a good point. I think building the database, I think, is less of a problem. Keeping it updated, I think, is the harder part of the puzzle. But thanks for your answer. The one other question we are getting is, we often hear that each state offers unique values like WASA and not just NSW and WIC. Does this mean Australia has a good decentralized ecosystem for innovation in general? Does anyone who is more pan-Australia, maybe CSIRO or Austrade, want to take a shot at this?
It's a very general answer, but I think if you look at the different states, they have different priorities around their own state economies. Some states are more mining heavy, some states are more manufacturing heavy, for example. So the type of work we get out of those different states may reflect that. It also depends on some of the government priorities that are in place around things. So there's certainly a range, but there's also a fair bit of overlap and complementarity between what the different states do. So I mean, in overall, it's a healthy ecosystem. I think that was the question in the box, but it depends a little bit. Glenn or George may have more insight around that.
You've been very, very polite, Rajiv. I think sometimes we don't do ourselves a service in Australia by allowing the states to be a bit parochial in the way they present. But your answer is right. There is variations based on the industry bases that are in those particular states. So, Western Australia is clearly, a leader in the mining sector and so on. The areas of quantum computing, for example, seem to have naturally centered around Sydney across 4 universities. Doesn't mean that other states don't participate, but I think that's one of the things we could do a lot better job at, is sort of map those things out and present them a little bit more coherently.
Perfect. Thank you. I think I'm very, very conscious of time. I think we'll have to end the Q&A session here, although I see a couple of questions popping up, but maybe I'll look at them offline. So thank you for your talk. I would now like to invite Watanabe-san back on the screen for delivering closing remarks.
All right, thank you very much, Tetsu-san, and thank all speakers for wonderful presentations, including the case studies, also Q&A session. Just
to the Japanese companies participants about the co-development of the research initiatives with Australia, I think many of you didn't know. So through this seminar, I hope that this will be a trigger to intrigue you, to be interested in the collaboration of research with Australia. And also Japan and Australia has an MOU on the research, and the two governments have been working together for many years, and we'd like to continue to support the collaboration between Japanese companies and Australian company research institutions. So with that, we'd like to conclude today's seminar, and we are going to send you a and this is you can see the survey QR code on the slide. We would like to ask you to fill out the survey so to help us improve the seminar going forward. Thank you for your attention today.